This is the people in the room. This is the people on stream. Welcome, everyone. Let's start by finding a comfortable position. Just see to it that you can relax. Close your eyes. Just recognize this moment. Whatever you experience, thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, whatever comes through the senses, you just notice. You recognize. You don't have to do anything with the content of your experience. Within all these layers of thoughts, emotions, beliefs, all that you have in your experience, the deepest layer of it is just pure awareness. This inherent alertness that just recognizes experience. It is not something that you can conjure. It's not something you can create, because it's just there always. The mind just gets distracted by thinking, believing, the idea of I, all these things. So you don't recognize this deep stillness beneath it all. This stillness, this silence, this awareness. Is the deepest expression of the present moment. It is good to have the fundamental understanding of this. The intellectual understanding helps. But the intellectual understanding is not the recognition. Experiencing the present moment as it is meditation. Thoughts about meditation is just understanding meditation. You have to experience. And every time you lose yourself in thoughts, you come back to recognize that you can be aware of thinking. In this very, very simple recognition, you move your idea and your identity with thoughts from being in the thought to observing the thought. This seems like a small thing, but this is one of the most important parts of meditation. The first step is becoming the observer and recognizing that you can observe. Because in this, there is the possibility to free yourself from identification. If you don't recognize, you can never break the bond of identification. And you notice that certain content of the mind has a strong pull on you. Certain thoughts feel very important or almost magnetic, like they draw you in. Others feel more light and will just come and go easily. In this recognition, you will notice that thoughts have different qualities, and that there is also a sense of, for example, longing in meditation, longing for something to happen, a longing for some spiritual experience, a longing for peace. All this. There's nothing wrong with that longing. It's just that the mind can get hold of it and it can become a big thing. Notice all this. Notice the play. If you experience your mind as chaotic, it is because you're going with the identification of your thoughts all the time. This creates a mind that jumps from one thing to another. It feels restless. But the more you recognize that you can be aware of thinking, then you can find spaciousness and peace in every moment. Because whatever is there, you can always go and observe it. At first it will feel like a place you visit, this spaciousness, this meditative space. But the more you get comfortable with it, get comfortable with not going with thoughts, you will recognize that you can live your life from this space. You can open your eyes, move your body if you need to. The mind has a very complex way of relating. Because to most people, thinking is so pronounced in the experience. And when you start to observe your thoughts, you start to notice that there's a lot going on. But the quality of thoughts, they're not all the same. There is a spontaneity to certain thoughts, that they just happen in the present without an agenda. And certain thoughts and other thoughts can be completely with desire, agenda, an idea of what. Of the things that I'm longing for, all these things. I just want to be clear with that, because you can start to have the feeling that you have to get rid of all thought. But there is also just spontaneous, non-identified thought that is happening. And just as things happen in the present moment, or when you think about what is going to happen, has a completely different quality to it. As soon as the mind goes into time, it gets lost. But all is very spontaneously revealed in your sadhana. There is only this. You might call it awareness, the present moment. Notice what in experience can fall and what cannot. When you rest in this silence, what will fall away and what will stay? But I would say that 90% of thinking is just identification and time. So if your mind is all the time occupied and there is no space, then you can be quite sure that it's dealing with a lot of identity. And I don't say this for you to judge your mind. Just be truthful with what is going on. Because if you're not truthful with where you are in your experience, you will also not be able to relate to it in a truthful way. If you start to say things, I have meditated too long for this to still be this way, you will just get into problems You have to recognize this is what is happening. How real can I be with it? How truthful? And it might feel like there's a mountain to climb. It might feel like it's impossible. The mind is doing its things, it has its strategies, it's overwhelming. But actually the egoic mind is not strong at all. It's just cunning. Because everything that has to do with the egoic mind comes later than awareness. And also be very honest with this. It's so easy to do these strong stances and say, it's overwhelming, it's too much, my experience is this or that. And we go into personhood and we really hold on to that. Notice the mind's tendency to protect the egoic mind. Notice the resistance of going from that to asking, to whom is this happening? It can brush it off as irrelevant or all these things. It's not the right moment to do it. It just wants to hold on. It wants to feel safe. Because as soon as you go outside of that, it will feel scary. It will feel like there is nothing to hold on to. The egoic mind will say, it's too far, it's too much. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm just saying it for you to, when that will happen in your experience, and it will. It always will. You can face it now, or you can face it when the body is closer to deteriorating, and you will meet it then. It's unavoidable in our experience. If you feel identification with the body and with your personality and your thoughts, that will at some point start to dissolve. It's unavoidable. And I know that most people don't do things unless it's really urgent. You know? They don't change anything until it doesn't work anymore. So almost everyone, almost 100% of people on the spiritual path had some kind of crisis. Because that's how most people work. So also go around poking the things that doesn't really need to be poked. Why are you going into this nothingness stuff? This deep silence that seems to burn everything. Why is that? What are we doing? Why am I scaring myself with this? And then at the same time there is this deep longing for truth. The longing to know yourself. Know what this is, this experience. So there can be a little play of this. Feeling the longing of it, being drawn to it, and when you come too close, when you come too close to the flame, to the light, and you start to burn, you take a step back again. You enjoy the light from a distance. You don't want the flames to burn you. But these flames of this candle, of this light, does not burn what you are. It only burns what you're not. But when you identify with what you're not, it feels like you're dying. It feels like you're going. And I assume many of you have heard these kind of things like deathless death. All these kinds of expressions. That is what it talks about. The dying of the things that you are not. Life is so little about what most of us think that it's about. Most people are completely taken by their own situation. That's usually what they refer to as their life. And they can have an idea if it's going well or it's going not so well. It's going the way I want it to, or it's not really going the way I want it to. And the more you are aligned with the present moment, it will just be what is happening. And in a way that is an experience of a choice. That you dedicate yourself to the practice. That you really want to see what is this present moment? What is the qualities of now? What are the qualities of this awareness that I am experiencing? These nice moments that I experience in meditation. How deep does it go? Yes, Cecilia has a question. Let me see the volume.
Thank you. Hey.
Hey.
Could you talk more about, you're talking about the flame and the fire burning, and there's a lot of, people have all these experiences of transformation, and especially in the spiritual community, but there's also a tendency of disassociation, like when we psychologically step out of a situation, not to truly feel it or truly integrate it and embody it. And it's a very complex thing, I would say, because it's so, the individual experience can differentiate so much. But could you please clarify or talk a little bit about that, what the difference is between disassociating from your identification and actually letting it burn, and how, what the experience can be like?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very common that when you start to notice that you can observe your mind, that you enjoy this observation. there is a little distance to everything. You feel there is a space between you and what is happening. This is still an identified experience, but it just, if you feel like you're being overwhelmed by your experiences, it can feel very nice. Suddenly the identification with it is very low, but you can also be a bit numb with it. And you can draw conclusions in this state that it is a very high state, that you achieved something spiritually. And all these things are traps in that. Because it's not about not associating with the experience. It is understanding that you are all of it. As soon as there is an observer and the observed, there are two. Even if this observation feels very nice. And especially if you're a sensitive person and you feel everything, it feels nice that there is some space now. It feels like you don't care about things that much, and you can have all these ideas with that you're making spiritual progression. But that just feeds the egoic mind. I understand that on a practical level, that is what is happening, and this is a part that you have to go through. But many people get stuck in this and feel very spiritual in that. But what needs to happen at some point is when this observation have to transition into integration. And there can be a sense of like holding things on arm's length. And it feels really nice that they're not taking your attention and that you feel not so associated with it anymore. But if you feel this deep stillness in this, and you can come back to it, when these things that you hold on arm's length, you can allow them again. There has to be an acceptance of it. That is the integration of love in you, when you allow all the experience again. And to the egoic mind who has this spiritual ego, it feels like it's going back to what you were before. So it can resist it. You understand? It feels like now we're going again into the stickiness of it. But actually it is really embracing the present. This is a good example of the complexity of the egoic mind. It wants to play these. It never wants to get destroyed. You have to understand that. It's losing its grip. And you have been in a relationship with it that is very destructive. Where you all the time give your energy to it. So it can continue, and it takes a lot of the mind's attention, and it just continues and continues. And that seems to be what the egoic mind feeds of. And when you stop that, it will say, there is nothing left. There's death. I'm turning into nothingness. But you are not a someone. There is not a person inside the person. There is just experiencing. And the egoic mind can say, but that seems to be so little. It will talk about the present moment. If I'm only the present moment, I'm only this thin sliver on this great timeline. But when the egoic mind does that, it does not understand that this thin sliver it talks about is everything. The idea of a future, an idea of the past, is just that. And I understand that it feels super scary to give up all hope of a better future, all hope of a thing to come and the expectations of things. And also to hold on to the idea of everything that I have accumulated, that I have created to be what I am, all the past. I understand the fear of losing that. For most people, that feels like that is everything. But if you really look at the present moment, you notice that this is everything. You are just the now. You are just awareness. What else is there? And look at the effect of being nostalgic, of being in old thoughts, what this does, trying to hold on to the past, or trying to project all the ideas into the future. See what it does to your mind. It keeps you from being here. You all the time in that lose the ability of just being in this moment as you are. That's all it does. And I understand that it's comfortable and that it feels like it's safe and that you know what you have. Just look at it. Look at the present moment from the present moment. And notice that when you do your sadhana, when you do your practice, when you sit in meditation, notice how almost all of your thoughts are about ideas that has happened to you or that you want to happen to you. There are so few things that has to do with the present moment. And with this adult mind, you think about ideas of what is the best thing to do, how am I most efficient, all these things. They're always about becoming something. How to accumulate, how to become. They're never about being. That's why play is so important. And most adults lose play. They don't know what it is. They think in efficiency, what is the most rational thing to do, all these things. That's why the arts are so beautiful, because they allow play for adults. Dancing without it, When you're dancing, you're not aiming for movement from one place to another. There's no goal in dancing. Or at least if dancing is play. And if music is play, it's not to play the fastest or coming to a particular point in the music. It's just the music itself in the present. And it's almost funny that in our culture, so many people hold the values of the arts so highly. And you look at artists and they can live their crazy lives and do strange things because they just play. And people are fascinated by it, but they don't really know why. Because it all has to do with the enjoyment of being in the present moment. And I know that many people who practice meditation say things like, yes, I'm much more efficient at work when I practice meditation. Of course, because the mind is spacious and it's easier to think, it's easier to solve problems, all this. And the egoic mind loves to stay there. It's easier to be creative, it's easier to be spacious, it's easier to be not identified with situation, not so easily irritated. You enjoy all those benefits of the practice and you make them into something. This is how most of society talks about meditation. But meditation in its depth is being completely in acceptance of this moment as it is. And with these strong ideas always projected in the future and the past, it will take you away from that. So what is most quality in life? Is it life quality to always project, to always long, to always expect? If that is what you live for, I'm so sorry. There is so much in this moment. Don't live your life waiting for it to become better, waiting for it to something. But you will say, but all my hope is in waiting. Yes, then you have to confront that. What is this? What is the quality of this? The beauty that you're looking for, the completeness that you're looking for, the idea that you're not whole, that something is lacking in your experience, is all here. It's not somewhere else. There are not buckets that you need to accumulate the right stuff for there to be enough. If you have the sense that you're not enough, even if you get what you want, you will project it onto the next thing. notice how your mind likes these obsessions with things. It might like to always have a problem. And when a problem is done for a while, and there is no problem in your life, you feel a bit lost, and then you find a new problem. Those kind of things becomes, you might not be aware that you have this pattern, but if you notice your mind, you will notice these kind of things. And you will notice the uncomfortableness of not having a thing. When the egoic mind does not have something to tinker with. It's like a nervous tick. You know? That many people have in their hands. Something to fiddle with, but with thoughts. That you have to have a thought to fiddle with. You have to have a problem to wrestle with. Otherwise you feel lost for a while. Just notice it. Notice all these tendencies. Just go on. And the strange feeling that contentment feels almost like death. If I would accept myself as I am, it would be giving up, it would be dying. But is that really true? What is the deep acceptance of this moment? What does it bring? Do you even know? And I know that it's very easy to go into these spiritual ideas of what this is. And you come to the conclusion, I have to surrender. I have to surrender to the present moment. How do I do that? But the question then is, who is going to surrender? Who are you in this? Who is the one who has the strategy to become a surrenderer? And is there a difference between you and what you are surrendering to? Can you understand this question? You can follow? It is strange that meditation is like an unavoidable thing, and we talk about it like it is a thing. Like we come together for meditation, right? We have a forum, we have this space, you come and sit, we talk about it as a thing. And you could say things like, yes, I've really gotten into meditation now. But in a sense, that is ridiculous. Because the unfolding of the present moment, is that a thing? It's just that we have a forum where we can talk about it. But it's not really a thing. It's everyone's life. And you will notice people, when you practiced and you start to notice your thoughts, you will notice some people that are like, they never use the word meditation. They might not even know what it would be if you would talk to them, but you just see that they're very present. Because it is a spontaneous thing. And all people are in some way drawn to it. If you see anyone who's really pursuing like something in art, athletics, any subject where they go really deep, it always comes to what they enjoy most about it is the present moment. It's always the same. What is it that you like so much about painting? Yes, when I use my brush and it just paints by itself. And I'm just as surprised as anyone watching what is happening. What is the most enjoyable moment in your athletics career? Yes, it is when I'm in competition and everything disappears and there is only my jump or whatever it is. You will notice that people talk like this because the human experience is always the same. And that's why this kind of forum is just talked about as the direct path. Because all paths lead to it, it just can be a bit more squiggly. And there are some qualities that's always associated with meditation. It will always be easier for the one who enjoys concentration. And enjoys creativity. Because one-pointedness of the mind and the free expression of thoughts in the now are qualities of meditation. There's no need to be always efficient. There has to be space to play. And love. Love is the expression of just accepting yourself as you are. I know that it's sometimes seemed like love is some kind of mysterious thing. But it's just that. accepting the present moment as it is. Understanding that you don't need to be fixed. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing lacking. But this deep acceptance of yourself really challenges the egoic mind. Because the egoic mind thrives on discontentment and separation. And to feel gratitude for this moment, to feel deep love for it, is completely against the egoic mind. It cannot handle it, really. And in your practice, you will start to notice this love. And the question will be, can you accept it? Do you feel like you're worthy? Of this never-ending acceptance. This is the actual challenge in meditation. Many people think that they're going to get rid of their darkness. But then they're the most challenged when the light comes. When you start to feel love inside. And the question will be, can you take it? Do you even think that you're worthy of it? There is, of course, not really a someone at the core of this experience, but that is how it is perceived. And when you're not used to experiencing this kind of love, it feels like it's a thing. But that is actually the core of your nature. the quality of being with the present as it is that it will change from your ideas projected into the future. And instead, being curious what the present moment will give. And I understand the feeling that it sometimes can feel like it's far away to accept this moment. But it's actually not. How far away is awareness? How far away is the present moment? It's only obscured by thoughts, ideas, desires. That's it. And you might ask, but what am I to do in meditation? Recognize again and again is inherent presence, the awareness of now. Question the idea of the egoic mind, the idea of your identity. If you think you are the body or your personality, look at how it comes and goes. Even the body comes and goes. Deep sleep, no body. And fantastically, you're not afraid every time you're going to bed that you're going to lose it. And you're not surprised that it's coming back. And notice all the ways the egoic mind manifests. It's unavoidable. If you do your sadhana and if you come back to being aware, you will notice how it happens. You will notice that you wake up in the morning and for a while the egoic mind or the fears that you went to bed with last night are not there. And it takes a few seconds, and then you come into the idea of a personhood again, and all your emotions and everything comes back. Notice how it works. Notice how it is layered. The experience reveals it to you. You just have to be attentive. And if you get frustrated by it, then you're too invested. Then there is identification in the one trying to be aware. Notice all this. There is just a very neutral awareness of this moment. It's so easy to become a trier of being aware. That is too much tension. Then you have to relax a little bit. And if you start to daydream all the time, then you're too relaxed. Then you have to be a bit more on point. The Buddhist calls it the razor's edge. This is a very good expression, I think. Because when you first encounter it, it really feels like a balancing act. How can I stay with the present moment as it is? And it feels like, oh, there it is. And the more you stay, the more you notice that you can just rest. That the razor's edge is very thick. You can lay down on it. Any questions today? Yes. Please take the microphone.
I have a question. If the thoughts goes like this, that sure I can relax my mind, but first I have to do this. For example, first I have to become a medical doctor.
Okay.
And it takes, it's not the case for me, but I mean, something like that. Or I guess other people might have, first have to become a millionaire, then I can.
Okay.
So something.
Okay. I thought you would say, first have to do my dishes before I can sit in meditation. That's very easily, but becoming a doctor feels a bit more like a larger hurdle.
Yes, because I don't want to sit in a school for 5 more years. No. But still I have this...
Yes, and you can have all these kind of... It is very, very common. But if you're really into spirituality and really into meditation, it's usually, I have to go to this ashram, I have to live in this place in India for a while, I have to be like this and this, or I'm not holy enough, I still drink alcohol and eat meat, I have to get rid of that, I have to do this and this, all these conditions.
Yeah.
But what do they have to do with the present moment? The idea that there are hurdles is the hurdle. Do you understand? You can always say that. Okay, you can say this meditation thing sounds great, but it's going to take me 10 years. All these kind of conditions you can put on it, and they're all traps. Whatever I have to fix my life in this way, my economy has to be better, I have to do this and this, I have to have a stable relationship in this way, I have to fix this and this. That is just, the egoic mind, it loves that. It can just go forever with that. That is just the manifestation of discontentment. That is the sense of feeling separate, and you project that out into your world and you say, I have to fix this separation of the world. I cannot be peaceful in a world that is full of war and conflict. That is ridiculous. Because where is peace going to start if not with you? You can always project these things and say that they're and try to escape being with yourself as you are. The mind has 1,000 of those ideas. But this is a very good point, because this is for most people what makes meditation difficult. Because there's always something that is not right. And the sense of it not being right is the idea of separation. That you are something and the world is something, and that you have to become something in the world. And you have to reach this goal. You have to fill, I usually talk about these buckets that you have to fill. This is exactly what I'm referring to. That you feel like, I have to be educated enough. I have to know more about meditation. I have to go to spiritual places. I have to go to the Ramana Maharshi's ashram in India. I have to do this, I have to do that. But none of those things, they're just in the mind. And it can be that you have to go certain places and do certain things in this world, but they have a completely different quality to them. They don't have the quality that is going to fix everything. There is just a longing in that is much deeper. This is the quality that I talked about in the beginning of thoughts that come from the present moment. There can also come thoughts, there can also come longing, but it has a completely different quality. It would never be a problem if it didn't happen. If it happens to manifest, it manifests. But all these detour thoughts, I'm not good enough, I have to be this, I have to be that, I have to live up to the idea my parents have of something that I should be, or all these things are obstacles, hurdles. They are not real. You are perfect as you are. However strange that might seem to you. Because you are not a person. You are awareness. And awareness does not need anything to be added to it. It does not need anything to be subtracted from it. It cannot be fixed. It doesn't need to be fixed. It doesn't need to be healed. It has none of those qualities. And as you stay as awareness, you will notice that some things in the relative will automatically heal in that. But it has nothing to do with what you are. It's just how things manifest. Did I answer your question?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or I will, digest.
Digest it. Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not sure how to put it. Is this realization, if we can't will it, do it by willpower, it's more like a spontaneous thing.
Yes.
So why am I here? Why am I sitting here?
Yes, this is the great contradiction. Because you cannot force it. But it seems to be much more likely if you stay close to it. This is the contradiction of the absolute and the world of the relative. It seems to happen much more in the ones who practice some form of sadhana. But it doesn't happen exclusively to them. And a famous example is Eckhart Tolle, who was just depressed. And in the right moment asked the question, there seem to be two I in this. So he did spontaneous inquiry. And for him, he was very ready for it. So it just happened spontaneously. But all these things, to know about inquiry, what it does, to stay as awareness and recognize, all these things are helpful. But they won't, and the reason why you cannot will it, because there is no one to will it. Do you understand? There is no nor core yun version that can will it, because that is an idea of a person. And I know this is a very sensitive subject, because personal will for most people a very, very dear thing. I am choosing to do this. I am choosing to come here. All. But in actuality, it's just happening. It's not a personal thing also that you're coming here and hearing these words. This is just awareness longing for itself. And sometimes you will say, I don't know why these things happen in my life. And sometimes you can attract also negative things that are perfect for your spiritual. Because it just wants to show you how you're stuck. What you project, what you believe in. But it is the play of the egoic mind that wants to go from hope to hopelessness. It always wants to be in this black and white. Is there something I can do? Okay, then there is nothing I can do. But that's not the spectrum the absolute moves in. It moves in the spectrum of the impossible in that sense. In all possibilities, in all spontaneousness, in everything that can happen. And I think Ramana Maharshi put it so beautifully. If a physical teacher is needed, a physical teacher will appear. He didn't talk about it like you have to go to a teacher, da da da. He just say the teacher will appear. Because that is much more truthful from the standpoint of awareness. It will just happen. Like this moment is just happening. There is something that drives this curiosity, and that is not really a choice. It is just there. It's not really rational sometimes. It's just still there. The mind can say, oh, not today. It's too much. I'm too restless today. I'm too this and this. I'm too tired. I'm this. And then there can still be, but I long. I have to go. And when you can recognize this in you, it will be much easier to follow. Otherwise the mind can just take over, make everything black and white again, jumps into hope and hopelessness, all these things. But this intuitive longing is much more dynamic. It doesn't have those parameters, that it has to be functional, or it has to be efficient, or this is the best way forward, or all these kind of ideas come in the thinking mind. That creates the conflict. That creates the idea of, is this the best way for my spiritual path? And all this kind of ridiculousness. Is this teacher the most efficient way to move forward? All these kind of nonsense things. And the more spontaneous it can move, then the right people can just come and go as they should. Some people that I met that have the most profound effect of me, I only met once. There was a quick trust, and then they were no longer in my life. Bonded for a short while, and what was transmitted perfectly, and then it went. You don't have to be smart about it. Just follow. Did I answer your question? Yes?
I'm not sure if it's a question, but I've been thinking a lot about not lying to myself. And I think you're kind of touching on that in this last response, how to distinguish between when you're deciding not to push through and say you're going to the gym and you're deciding not to push forward because you're actually tired, because you're listening to your body, or if you are deciding not to push through because you are scared of something, and to kind of see the distinction between the two. And also the example that you said with the meditation, deciding when to meditate, or maybe that is not as I don't know, but can you talk some about the relationship between lying versus not lying to yourself and meditation? I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
I think that most people know. If they're just sit down with it and are really sincere, you know if you're in avoidance or not.
Yes.
It's quite obvious, but you can have all the nicest explanations, and especially if you have a lot of talk surrounding something.
Yeah.
And that you really try to confirm for yourself that it's okay, even though, and all this. But you also have to understand that the mind is very complex in the ideas of I think most people underestimate the things that are promised internally. That inner pressure, most people don't see it, that it has very heavy burden. And if you have a lot of dissonance in that, that takes a lot of energy. If you have very high expectations of yourself, but you never live up to them, then you will feel like a terrible person all the time. And you will feel like you're not enough. That's really how a great way of showing how the egoic mind works. And that is also in non-acceptance. And in those inner demands, there can be a very complex story of why you cannot really follow them, and that creates self-deprivation in that, and that you're not good enough, and all these things. So what happens if you start to let go of that and just accept the expressions that are there, is that you will quite quickly come into feeling a sense of love. Because it feels like you have a high standard and that people are impressed by that. And if you talk about things, it sounds like you have a really good life and you can have all these, you understand? And it can be so much for other people. And a way to talk and a way to impress people and all that. And that's what lures people into having these complex self. And also, if we're being honest, it's usually just inherited by our parents or our environment. And that we think that we have to have this. But self-love is just acceptance. And in that acceptance, you can do things. But they have to be from a playful nature. If they're just demands, they will just be heavy. If you just have the feeling, I have to be better looking, I have to be this and this, I have to be more attractive as a person, I have to have more interesting interests, because otherwise people won't like me. These are the things that you have to be really honest with. Am I just doing it for everyone else and the idea that I am okay if I live up to filling all these buckets? What is real self-love? What is real self-acceptance? And if you start to be in alignment with the things that you say, and when the inner talk is there, that you actually do those things, you're much more careful with them. You're much more truthful with them. And every time you say something, you do that, then your words will have a completely different power than if you all the time try to make a conversation inside that make you interesting to others. Suddenly, if you promise something and you always keep it to yourself, and if you always keep what you say externally as well as you can, your words will have so much power. So we also dilute everything by just promise. There has to be alignment between what you say and what is happening. And if there is disalignment in that, that creates a lot of thought. And that creates a lot of things that you have to live with and manage internally. It just takes a lot of space. I know that these things can feel scary and overwhelming. But that is a part of being truthful. And the release of it usually comes with tears. This is also completely normal. We just do a lot of strange things because we are afraid. We're afraid of not being loved. We're afraid of being alone. We're afraid of being seen as crazy. We're afraid of not fitting in. All these things. Fear is at the core of the egoic mind. And that you're fearful is not your fault. We have to be humble and understand that it's our ignorance in play. And this is also an acceptance that we have to have. That I don't see everything as it is. That's also an acceptance that has to be there. And in all these things, there is the possibility of love. Acceptance gives the possibility of love, because acceptance is love. It sounds so dry when we talk about accepting every moment as it is, but that is love. And if you find that in yourself, you will have so much easier time to deal with all the people that you used to call energy thieves and toxic personalities and all these, because you will see that those things, that person is just ignorant with their own, and you will understand their struggle, and you will just understand that that is just the expression that happens in that. The path is always through knowing yourself, not changing the world. You can try that if you're really convinced, try that for a while until you feel like nothing is happening with that. You're trying to control your partner, you're trying to control your environment, you're trying to control your colleagues, and it just leads to conflict, because no one wants to be controlled. Everyone wants to be accepted. In that sense, we all want the same things. We want to feel free, we want to feel accepted, we want to feel loved. And that love is not external, you are the source of that love. When the mind is not interfering, you naturally are love. Did I answer your question? Yes. Someone else? No? You want to sing something? Yes? So let's sing something. They're simple mantras. I will give out papers here. You can take a screenshot later. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come for me? Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my love? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my love? Night and day, I look for thee night and day. Night and day, I look for thee night and day. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my love? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my love? Night and day, I look for thee night and day. Night and day, I look for thee night and day. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my love? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my love? Night and day, I look for thee night and day. Night and day, I look for thee night and day. There's nothing wrong with longing. If you feel separate, if you feel small, if you feel fragmented, it is only natural to long. Long all you want. Fulfillment, peace. But just be aware that it is not an external thing. And the sooner you come to the realization that it comes from inside, there's no external event that will bring it about, the easier. Thank you for your attention, your curiosity. Thank you. Love you all.